welcome to Sonder, my little part of the internet where I document my knitting journey, reading journey, and life as a new doctor here in Denver, Colorado. My name is Maggie, and I generally like to start off by just talking a little bit about life and what's going on right now. So it is the 7th of January, 2021, and the world is on fire. For a little context, for those of you who are watching later or who are not in the United States or following the news, there was an attempted coup against the American government. There was a band of white supremacists who tried to silence the voice of the people by storming the United States Capitol building and terrorizing the lawmakers within who were working to confirm Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden as the elected officials coming in 2021. And holy shit, was it crazy. Not only did this happen, but they were egged on by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And it has been a crazy day. It has been really, really wild to watch and read about what went on and the ways in which our democracy was tested. I am wearing a very special shirt to me that discusses privilege, and it says privilege is when you think something is not a problem because it's not a problem to you personally. And this is a t-shirt that I bought from a Black booktuber during a readathon that I participated in last year. But I think that this is something that's really important to discuss, especially right now, because these terrorists stormed the Capitol, and one of them died, and 13 were arrested. And that is insane, because if these people were Black, this would have been a completely different story. And it's really amazing and grotesque to see the pictures comparing what the Capitol looked like during the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests and what they looked like yesterday. It's just insane. And this is about race. These rioters, these terrorists were angry about the way that America has changed. And what that really means is that they're angry about race relations in the United States and the fact that they do not hold all the power. And it's just really frightening. I will say that I feel like democracy won, but it's just a really scary time. And so I hope that you are taking time to sit with this and reflect on it and think about what you need to change to help support the Black Lives Matter movement and make change in the United States, and just not stand for this. This was crazy, especially just the fact that like President Trump was the one who was like egging on this angry mob. It's terrifying. So because of that, I am wearing this privileged t-shirt just so that I could kind of talk about it a little bit, and also wanted to show off this amazing Ruth Bader Ginsburg wearing a crown, drinking wine, and flipping off the world mug that my wonderful, beautiful Auntie Susie got me this year for Christmas. It's been a wild couple of days. I think like I have a lot of hope that things are changing and things are gonna get better. Georgia went for the Dems, and that is amazing. Now Kamala Harris, Vice President, future Vice President Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker in the Senate. The Democrats have the House, the Democrats have the White House, and the Senate now. So hopefully things will change in 2021. I have hope for that. But boy, was it a weird couple of days. So yeah, other than that, my week has been very relaxed. You'll see at the end of this some of the footage from the week, but I had a very relaxed week, doing a lot of reading, a lot of knitting. I got to go to a couple stores. So I went to one witchcraft store here in town and got some supplies for some spiritual endeavors that I am looking into and curious about. And what else did I do? It's been very relaxed. I made some beautiful hand balm from some oils that we have at our house, and I'll show you some footage of that as well. And yeah, other than that, it's just been going on a bunch of walks and really enjoying the winter. So with that, I hope that everyone is doing well and taking care of each other, and know that this is a very anxiety-provoking and very stressful time in the United States for many different reasons. And if you are feeling a heightened level of fear, anger, anxiety, stress, that is a normal feeling, and I feel that too. So yeah, with that, let's talk about some crafty goodness. I have been knitting like a mad woman. I've had a lot of online, so right now, my job, I'm working in developmental pediatrics, which means that I'm working with kiddos who have developmental delays of some kind. In the last few days, I've gotten to go in and play with kids on the autism spectrum, and that has just been so fun. It's really fun to go from the adult side of things back to the ped side and kind of have the opportunity to just get silly and get on the ground and like play with kids. It's great. And then when I'm not at the clinic playing with kids, it's a lot of telehealth stuff. And so with that, I have a lot of time where I need my hands to be moving and working on something, because that really, really helps me to focus. So yeah, so I have a lot of finished objects to talk about. The first one, I'll just talk about what I'm wearing. So this is the Felix Cardigan by, I believe, Amy Christoffers. And this I showed off in my last episode, but one last time, this is knit in Peace Fleece in the worsted weight Amaranth colorway, which is 75% Navajo wool and 25% mohair, and it is incredibly warm. It's a little rustic, and by little I mean quite rustic. I think that if you are sensitive to wool, this is going to be pretty intense for you, but it doesn't bother me at all. I can have it next to skin and it feels totally fine. And it did soften up quite a bit when I washed it. So this is really great. The only things that I have done to completely finish this is in the last week, I did attach all of these amazing buttons that I got from a thrift store here in Denver. And also on the other side, I did whip stitch down a ribbon so that the buttons would have a little bit of something to grab onto. And also just so that the button band kind of keeps its shape, just because I thought that with the ribbing that it might have the possibility of kind of getting out of shape a little bit. So I just thought that that would add a little bit of structure to the button band. So yeah, I really love it. I have lived in this thing since I finished it. I think that it would be a really wonderful knit, this or the pullover. The pullover would probably be a little faster just because there's no pearls. But this is a great thing to knit, I think, for people as gifts, gift knitting, if they deserve a sweater, because it's incredibly warm, it's incredibly comfortable, but the fact that it is slightly cropped and in worsted weight means that it goes really fast. So highly, highly recommend it. I don't think that it will be my last Felix cardigan that I knit. The other finished objects I have is very exciting, and this is the Dathan pullover by Kate Davies, I believe. And this is this really amazing dolman sleeve pullover that really just shows the beautiful yarns that you knit into it in a stripe sequence of your own choosing. I knit this out of the Lambstring wool add advent calendar for October of 2020. This was an advent calendar that my husband got me for my 30th birthday, which is in October. And this was so fun to knit. It was really exciting to see the colors come together. And it's not totally finished because I haven't woven in all the ends. And generally for me, I have to take a little bit of time weaving in ends because when I have to pick up stitches, there are always little bits that I need to fix, little tension changes and things like that. So I generally take quite some time weaving it in. You can see that many different yarns were used to make all of these stripes. And so there are a lot of ends to weave in for this project. However, I'll just show the inside. I did use the weave and Steven method of weaving in ends as I went so that it wasn't as if I would have to weave in all of these ends at once because that would be crazy and I probably would just never do it. So if you are knitting something like this or anything that has a lot of ends, I highly, highly recommend weaving them in as you go. So I can just try it on, show you. This has been blocked, but like I said, I always need to do a little bit more work to make it look how I want. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. Like I said, it's a really beautiful pullover that has these amazing sleeves, and I think it'll just be a really cute, really casual sweater for me to wear. I really like it open like this. I think it looks really cute. And then I also think that it will look quite cute sort of tucked in. And yeah, I think this is a great way to show off those Advent minis and really focus. It's just huge swaths of stockinette, so it really allows you to just focus on the yarn itself. It's so beautiful. I will also say that it's pretty great because once you are like super sick of knitting this sweater and are ready to cast on for the sleeves, it's a dolman sleeve, and so what ends up I think that's what this is called. If I'm wrong, no one will ever know. But what's great is that once you're ready to cast on the sleeves, it's this really tiny sleeve. Like the sleeve is only like 6 inches long and it just goes really fast once you're kind of ready to be done. So yeah, I really loved this sweater and I'm excited to weave in all the ends so that I can actually wear it. So yeah, that's all I've got for finished objects. It's honestly more than I anticipated. I had a lot of time, like I said, to knit over the course of the last week or so. So with that, I will move on to showing some works in progress. So I will start with a couple of socks that I have. One of these I showed off and one of them is new. These are both in sock bags that I made. This is a Harry Potter sock bag. And in here is the Lambstring 2020 Saint Nick colorway. And last time you saw it, I was, I believe, like somewhere down here, but yeah, so this is just a, I guess, vanilla sock for me. I like to add little bits of ribbing and little changes in color to bring a little bit of excitement to my vanilla socks, but this is just something I'm making up on my own. So I usually do 64 stitches on a US 1 9-inch circular. These are the Chiagus, which are my personal favorite needles. And I've just been knitting. I've done the heel flap and gusset in, or the heel flap in the contrasting red and the contrasting green for this little 2x2 rib stripe that I did right before that. So yeah, just working away on the foot, and this is generally something that I work on when I'm bored listening, well, not bored, but when I'm trying to pay closer attention listening to doctor's appointments and things like that. So yeah, I really love it. This yarn is turning out really well, and I think that this is going to be a perfect Christmas yarn where it's Christmassy on Christmas, but I think that I'll be able to get away with wearing it at other times and having it being sort of an under the radar Christmas sock. So the next sock I have is also in a bag that I made out of leftovers from some clothes that I made a couple of years ago. And this is the 31st of October skein that I got from the advent calendar that I was talking about. Sorry, the sun is kind of going a little bit, but it's January in Colorado, y'all. This is a really beautiful blue. And this I'm knitting the Midnight Dancer socks by Sari Nordland, which was crazy. You have to cast on over 300 stitches and then you do some like fancy footwork to make this ruffle. And I love it. I really love this ruffle, but boy, was this a pain in the ass. So yeah, now it's just a stockinette sock. You can see it's not super obvious, but I did try to do a little striping in here of this contrast color that I had left over. And I think it's a little bit hard to see, but I do think that it adds a little cute green intrigue into the sock. So yeah, this is also just going away, and I think that I'll probably do a heel flap and gusset for this as well. I find for me personally, I think my heel is just deep and that fits much better than a lot of the short row heels that I've tried. Like the Fish Lips Kiss heel just like does not work for me at all. But yeah, I think this yarn is incredibly beautiful and it's fun to get to use it in this different way, because this is actually the yarn that I use for all of the ribbing of my Dathan pullover. So yeah, just working away on those. And for me, sock knitting is really something that I do, like I said, when I just need to focus on something and do a little bit of mindless knitting. So the next two are sweaters that I cast on in the last week, and I'm obsessed with both of them. So the first one, I'm just realizing that I'm forgetting the name of this one, but this is a sweater pattern by Andrea Mowry that has a beautiful V-neck, a cable detail on the raglan, and some gorgeous color work at the bottom of the sweater. And I just joined in the round. So it's something where, because of the V-neck, you knit it flat for quite a while. And I just wanted to show off this yarn. I showed it off last time, but this is some fiber for the people in the leather colorway, I believe. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I am alternating skeins, but I honestly don't even know why, because the two skeins are literally identical. And yeah, I just really love how this is knitting up, and I think this cable is so beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous. So I'm just knitting away on this for right now. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to show off. This is the shoulder. And I will be doing the color work out of this gorgeous contrast, which I think is the Harbor by Fiber for the People. And then I also held on to a couple of other contrasts from my advent calendar. So this is the color scheme that I'm going for, and I am stoked. For me, I love color work because it goes so quickly. Like I just want to get to the next thing, and so I'm really excited for this. And this is in my Antler and Acorn squirrel bag, which I absolutely love. All right, the last knitted work in progress is my Kess cardigan by Meri Tanaka. And this is a very cabled cardigan that is knit in pieces. And I am knitting this out of some beautiful heirloom wool that I got from a farm in Routt County. Actually, this farm is technically in Moffat County, but in the Yampa Valley, which is where I grew up. And oh, it's this beautiful rustic sheepy wool that's worsted spun, and I am obsessed. And I think that it will be an amazing cardigan. So this is the left front that I have finished, and it's a little bit hard to see, but this is kind of the underarm and down, and I don't know how it's gonna knit up the rest of the way. It's kind of exciting. I think you might do the raglan of all the pieces together, because it had me stop knitting this and start the next thing. So I don't know what to expect, but this is it. And I have just been obsessed with seeing how these cables are popping with this gorgeous yarn. Oh my gosh. So there's a panel of seed stitch. It has these really beautiful small cables, large cables, and this really beautiful braiding cable. I am obsessed with it. This will be the button band. I've never knit anything like this before, and so it's been a really fun thing to kind of get to see how it's gonna turn out. So yeah, so far the only change that I have made to this cardigan is that I did do a rolled hem. Like I said, I learned how to do a rolled hem for this project, and now I'm just wanting to have it be on everything because I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. So I did do a rolled hem on the bottom of this, and I followed for the cast on, I do have the Weekender by Andrea Mowry, and she did call for a rolled hem cast on for that. So this was actually a bind off, and this is the cast on. So I did use that information from Andrea Mowry to make this. So yeah, I am obsessed with this. I actually really like that it's knit in pieces, because I think it would be really complicated to have to follow all of these different charts, and so it makes it so that I can focus just on this and not get confused about what's going on the back or reversing it for the other side. I will say I think this is a little bit more of an intermediate to advanced knitting pattern, because there's a little bit less information than you would expect. So, all right, those are all of the knitted objects and crafty bits that I have been working on. And so I'm gonna move on to talking about some of the books that I finished reading in the last week. I did finish 3 books last week, which is a great start to 2021. So I'll talk about those, and then the book I'm currently reading and what's on the horizon. So, like I said, I did finish 3 books during the last week. Oh, yep, it's here. Oof. Oh. Here's a ball, and here's a ball. Okay, now he wants to cuddle. So like I said, I did finish 3 books over the last week, and they were amazing. One in particular was like 5 out of 5, absolutely amazing, and I'm sure you can guess which one that was. But so the first book I finished was A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Manda Collins. And that book I gave like a 3 out of 5. It was a really fun romance. And essentially was a romance in which a woman who is a reporter slash owner of a publishing company works with the local law enforcement to catch a murderer. I won't say more than that, because I think part of the fun is kind of going along the ride, trying to figure out who the murderer is and the motives and things like that. I would say that in general, I thought that it was really fun. It's a good escape. I will say it fell a little bit flat for me, and I wanted to recommend these 2 books. So this is a series by Evie Dunmore. The first is Bringing Down the Duke, and the second is A Rogue of One's Own. And I would say if you want to read a story that takes place in this time period, but is a little bit more steamy, I would go for these over A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem. I thought that one just fell a little flat, and the characters were not quite as intriguing to me as the characters of this series. So I would say if you're looking for a book like that will be a total escape, fun, joy, steamy hot scenes, read these books over that one. But if you're really into like murder mystery and crime, and you maybe like thrillers and want to see what it would be, or thrillers or mysteries, and kind of want to see what it would be like, I would say that that is a great foyer into the romance genre, if that is something you're excited about. The next book that I will talk about is another romance, and this one I liked slightly better than The Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem, and that is When Katie Met Cassidy. And this is a really fun lesbian rom-com about two women falling in love, and it was great. Essentially, it follows two lawyers who are on opposing sides of an argument, and one of them has just broken up with her boyfriend and is very intrigued by the other, and it's just about how they fell in love. It's really wonderful. There's some really cute nuance. I will say there is a trigger warning for sure for not wanting to out yourself and staying in the closet and treating your loved one very badly as a result. But if you are fine with that and that conflict and that particular trigger, then I think this is something that you would absolutely love reading. It's great. Highly recommend. Some saucy scenes. It's super fun and it's really short, so this is like a really good palate cleanser. And I wanted to read that as a palate cleanser because I had just finished The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. So this is the third book in the Poppy War trilogy, and it follows Rin, who is a war orphan who goes to a really prestigious military academy, and there learns how to be a shaman and learns how to commune with gods. Halfway through the first book, a war erupts, and that war and the sort of subsequent wars are followed throughout the rest of the trilogy. Holy shit. Like, tear your heart out and stomp on it, but in the best way. This book is really amazing. I talked about it last week, but Rin is such a complex character, and she's one that you both love and hate. She doesn't always make good decisions. She doesn't always make wise or humanitarian decisions. She is really trying to win a war. And it is incredible. I think the friendships in this are beautiful. The complex characters are amazing. The world building is incredible. Everything about this series is amazing. I will say that there are so many trigger warnings for these three books that I'm not even gonna bother listing them out because they're incredibly long. I'm sure there's a place that you can go to look them up to see if this is something that you would like to read, but it is very graphic and very violent, but just amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend. This was 5 out of 5, an amazing way to start the year. But because it was so grim and so dark, I definitely needed some romance to kind of cleanse my palate and have a little bit of a reprieve from this book, just because it was intense, like intense in the best way, but intense. This trilogy was actually a trilogy that I read with my fellow interns, my co-interns in the University of Colorado MedPeds residency. And I'm really excited for us to sit down and talk about the trilogy as a whole and just go through our thoughts and our heartache. And I can't wait to see what people thought about it. But yeah, so those 3 books are the 3 books that I finished this week. And then the only book that I'm carrying over from last week is Legenborn by Tracy Deonn. I am absolutely obsessed with this book and had to make myself slow down a little bit because I felt like I was reading another sort of grim, dark fantasy, and I wanted to give this like its own space. Hopefully I'll finish it this week, but this is a King Arthur retelling about a young woman a 16-year-old who goes to the UNC Chapel Hill campus and for like a early college program. And on her first night there, she sees a magical kind of fight break out. And it's something where she was not supposed to see this. And then it's kind of about her being sucked into this secret magical society that's been on the UNC campus for a very long time. It is so good. There's like love triangles going on, there's magic, there's like amazing portrayals of Blackness and being Black in America and race relations and privilege. It is everything, and I am obsessed. So I'm really excited to finish this. I think this is going to be a new series or a trilogy, and I really hope so, because I need more than just like 500 pages of this. I need like 1,500 pages at least of this. So yeah, highly recommend this. It is absolutely amazing. It's also really fast-paced and really fun. So if you're looking to get into, and it's also like, it's definitely fantasy, but because it's kind of like urban fantasy and it's the real world, it makes it, I think, a little bit easier to follow for people who maybe wouldn't consider themselves fantasy readers. So highly recommend. I mean, I don't know how this won't be a 5 out of 5 for me. Like right now it's definitely a 5 out of 5. So I'm excited to see where the ending takes me. And then I just thought that I would talk about a few of the books that are on my radar to start reading in the next week or so. So I have been reading, like I said, a lot of kind of grim, dark fantasy, and I'm feeling the need to kind of branch away from that for a little while. I love fantasy, I love sci-fi, but I like to kind of intermingle my sci-fi fantasy reading with other things like historical fiction and literary fiction and thrillers and things like that. So that's what these are. This is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mendel, and she wrote Station 11, which was one of my favorite books that I read a couple of years ago and is a really wonderful pandemic-y book if that's something that you feel like you want to read. And this is her next novel. The cover of it is absolutely beautiful. I have no idea what this is about, but I really love Emily St. John Mandel's writing style. At least in Station 11, she intertwines the stories of many different points of view in this beautifully complex way that I was enthralled by. So I'm really excited to pick this up and start reading this week. This was also a gift from one of my dear friends, Sutton, and I generally like to read the books that people gift me relatively quickly because so much thought is put into giving someone a book and picking something out for them. So I'm really excited to start reading this. Then I got a couple of books from Book of the Month. So this is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, and this is a thriller novel that is, what I've heard, is a retelling of Jane Eyre. And I am intrigued by that. I think it has to do with like Southern Housewives or something. I'm not totally sure. That's all that I need to know going into it. I do really like Jane Eyre. I would say it's not my favorite of the classics, and most of the reason is I think Mr. Rochester is a pretty horrible human being, and I don't love his, I don't know, I think that his and Jane's love is actually like quite toxic, and I just didn't find it to be romantic. I found it to be kind of repulsive, and I just didn't love it. I think that it's amazing, and I think as Gothic literature goes, it's a really beautiful read. I just think for me, I wasn't totally sold on the love story itself. That being said, I still love this. Like, I still think that the story is interesting and important, and so I'm excited to see how it's kind of been reinterpreted in this thriller novel. And the last book is one that I am incredibly excited about, and one that I got in my Book of the Month club this month. I'm starting a book club with one of my good friends from undergrad, Sarah, and I absolutely love her. She's probably the most calming and empathetic and understanding and just beautiful human beings I've ever met. She's absolutely incredible, and she also loves reading and has gotten on the Book of the Month train, and we're going to be reading this together this month. So this is Outlawed by Anna North, and I'll just read this to you because I think that it sounds incredible. In the year of our Lord, 1894, I became an outlaw. The day of her wedding, 17-year-old Ada's life looks good. She loves her husband, and she loves working as an apprentice to her mother, a respectful midwife. But after a year of miscarriage and no pregnancy in a town where barren women are routinely hanged as witches, her survival depends on leaving behind everything she knows. She joins up with the notorious hole-in-the-wall gang, a band of outlaws led by a preacher-turned-robber known to all as the Kid. Charismatic, grandiose, and mercurial, the Kid is determined to create a safe haven for outcast women. But to make this dream a reality, the gang hatches a treacherous plan that may get them all killed. And Ada must decide whether she's willing to risk her life for the possibility of a new kind of future for them all. Featuring an irresistible, no-nonsense, courageous, and determined heroine, Outlawed dusts off the myths of the Old West and reignites the glimmering promise of the frontier with an entirely new set of feminist stakes. Anna North has crafted a pulse-racing, page-turning saga about the search for hope in the wake of death and for truth in a climate of small-mindedness and fear. Oh, I mean, feminist Western, like, say no more. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So yeah, those are the books that I am hopefully going to be reading. I think these are the two that I'm probably going to prioritize. Well, I don't know. They're all so good. There's so many good books to read. But yeah, these are the books that I'm going to be prioritizing this week. I think that's all that I have for today. I hope that everyone is doing well, and I hope that you are reflecting on how life has been going in the last week and what it means to be an American and what it means to have democracy and the importance of those things. And yeah, take care. I'll try to come back next week. It's been helpful for me to think about and look at the beautiful things that are going on in my life. So hopefully you can find some peace and some calm and some joy as well. All right, bye. you.